Hi, everybody. Welcome and good evening to the Self-Esteem 101 webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jessica, and I'm excited to have you all here with me today, and I'm looking forward to the great conversations that we're going to have. So first, just a little bit of background on me before we get started. I am a licensed mental health counselor in South Florida, and my background is mainly in addiction, and I've worked for the past 6 years in substance abuse treatment centers. Most of those letters behind my name there are addiction certifications. And among the thousands of people I've been able to work with over the years, I've come to find a common theme with people, which is low self-worth. I've concluded that in general, most people don't really like some part of themselves. You know, whether it's what they look like, where they are in life, how they move, you know, how clumsy or not clumsy they are, the mistakes they've made, you know, whatever it may be. And I've developed this webinar specifically as a free resource to help you get better acquainted and learn the basics of self-esteem and what it will take for you to begin a journey of self-love and acceptance. So working in the healthcare field, I'm no stranger to the current availability and affordability of mental health services in the United States. So when I created my business for the sole purpose of providing education in mental health issues to the public. So my business is still in its early stages. So this is my very first webinar, and I'm so excited to have you with me today. So before we get started, I just wanted to let you know that this webinar I wanted to be more interactive. So I do want some feedback from you guys as we go through it. So if that makes sense, I want to start out by getting your name, where you're from, and what made you want to enroll in this webinar. So take a minute and go ahead and jot those things down in the chat box. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome and thank you. I'm really excited to have you. So this webinar is designed and catered to self-lovers just like you. So it's time that you put down the bat and learn how to give yourself some love. So you've put so much work into your life, and it's time to put yourself first. You know, I think that loving who you are as a person and treating yourself accordingly is not selfish. It's actually vital. If you want to love your family, your friends, your coworkers, you know, whoever it is, you must be able to know how to love yourself first. So it's necessary to sustaining your well-being. So here's what we'll be covering today. We will be covering what self-worth is, where it comes from, you know, what it feels like and what it looks like in your life, the 3 biggest mistakes you probably make in trying to love yourself and what to do instead, how to make self-love a daily practice. And then I have some good book suggestions and other recommendations for you. And at the very end, we'll do some more question and answer time and an exclusive offer. So again, I just wanted to get everybody acquainted. So go ahead and put your name and where you're from in the chat box before we move on. Hello, I have somebody back. Somebody dropped off and keeps coming back on. Okay, so this is what we'll be covering today. So we'll go ahead and get started. So what is self-esteem? You probably have a bunch of different ideas about what self-esteem is. And I think it's going to be really important for you to be able to figure out the difference between, what self-esteem is and the difference between that and self-worth, self-acceptance, and self-love. So let's go ahead and take a look at those. So self-esteem is your perceptions and how you feel about yourself externally. Self-worth is how you feel about yourself internally. So there's a difference there, so self-esteem is your perceptions of your capabilities, your talents, your appearance, things of that nature, whereas self-worth is your perceptions of your worth as an individual. So that's more internal. Now, self-acceptance is being okay with who you are right now. And this includes your flaws, your mistakes, and your quirks, your knees, your ears, your nose, everything. It includes everything. And then lastly, self-love is an action word, and it is actively taking care of yourself. So there is a specific difference between self-acceptance and self-love, and that is self-acceptance is the practice of self-compassion and letting yourself be you, whereas self-love is taking action continually to improve your well-being, your mind, and your soul, because you know that you're deserving. So for today's talk, I'm going to keep things simple, and I'm going to use self-esteem as the go-to term to keep things simple. So basically, self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Sounds easy, right? Well, not exactly. Although this is true, there's so much that goes into why you feel the way that you do about yourself. So there are 4 main factors that I have listed here that contribute to how you feel about yourself. I mean, there's so much more that goes into it, but these are the basic 4. So the first one is your environment, and this is huge in today's society. Both males and females are both told in major media how to look, how to act, what they should be doing with their life, what kind of work they should be doing, all of that good stuff. So your environment is a huge influencer on your self-esteem. Next are your experiences, how you experience your environment. So they are an essential factor in how you feel about yourself, because, I mean, if you were bullied as a child or you experienced some sort of loss or trauma, you're more likely to have low self-esteem. So what happens to us in life matters greatly. Next is your perceptions, and your perceptions are how you interpret the world around you, and this is also a vital factor in how you view yourself. If someone told you that you weren't good enough, some of you may, get really depressed and isolate after hearing that. Some of you might get angry and act impulsively. And some of you might actually, use that as motivation to prove that person wrong. So your perception and how you view it and how you internalize it are huge. So your events and your perceptions of those events are kind of what makes your self-esteem what it is. And the last factor I have here is your personality traits. And personality is huge. Some of us are more sensitive than others, and some of us are more extroverted, more introverted. Some of us perceive and some of us judge more than others. So it just kind of depends on our personality traits. So pretty much, to simply summarize, your environment and experiences become internalized into your psyche by how you perceive your outside world, and how you perceive your world depends greatly on your personality traits. So before we move on, I just want to make sure, are there any questions? Excuse me. No questions? Okay, so we'll go ahead and keep moving. So what does self-esteem feel like? So on the left, I have an example of what low self-esteem might look like. So it might feel like shame. It might feel like depression or anxiety. It might feel like self-pity. Now, the other one that I wanted to mention was addiction. When I mention addiction, I'm not talking necessarily about the hardcore drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about the fact that everybody numbs to an extent. You know, it might not be through drugs and alcohol, but it's some way, whether it's food, spending money, getting lost in YouTube videos, you know, Facebook, TV, whatever it is. So the question I want you to ask yourself is this, you know, why do you feel the need to numb? You know, what are you avoiding? You know, you don't have to answer here, but it's good stuff to think about. So, and then on the left here is what good self-esteem looks like. So good self-esteem, it feels like confidence. If you feel energized, you feel more at peace, you feel a little sexy, you know, and you have that moxie and that gumption. And when I talk about moxie and gumption, I think of, you know, it's more or less having that determination or initiative. And I like these two terms better than determination, because when I think about determination, I think more about, you know, somebody who's serious and trying to get something done. Whereas moxie and gumption, I think about, you know, a person with a fiery spirit and daring confidence. So that's why I like those words, because I mean, you can just kind of picture the person in your mind right now, somebody who has moxie and gumption, and I love it. So those are two examples about what self-esteem feels like. So what does self-esteem look like? Or what does low self-esteem look like out in the real world? It might look like you having poor boundaries, you know, unable to say no when you need to. It might look like you having unhealthy relationships, you know, whether that's abusive relationships, controlling, distant, you know, feeling used by someone else constantly, you know, those kind of contingent relationships. Dissatisfaction at work. You know, this is more, you know, when you don't do anything to change your current circumstances, you know, like asking for a raise or taking a risk to get a promotion for fear of failure, you know, or maybe your boss just doesn't listen to any of your great ideas, you know, so you've completely given up, you take a back seat and you're just unhappy. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little. The next one is huge. It's the inability to stand up for yourself. You know, again, it wraps back into those poor boundaries. So instead of standing up for yourself, you let it slide, saying, oh, it's not a big deal, when really you should be standing up for yourself and setting those boundaries. Next, we have codependent relationships. You know, so put simply, if you're a codependent, you highly struggle with being alone. So this could be intimate relationships, friendships, whatever it is. You know, you might be called clingy, controlling, or dramatic. Codependent relationships are very, very intertwined and they're not healthy. So next is struggle to accept compliments. This is huge because I don't know many women really that accept compliments just simple. So you might discount them altogether or play them down, you know, so compliments make you feel wildly uncomfortable. So that might be a telltale sign of, you know, you not having adequate self-esteem. Non-assertive communication is huge because it wraps again back to those poor boundaries and the inability to stand up for yourself. So your communication might be more aggressive, it might be more passive aggressive, or just plain passive. Either way, you're not being assertive and getting what you need in your communication style. Not lastly, but close to last is self-harm or unhealthy risk-taking. So self-harm could be as simple as reckless driving or as severe as cutting or burning yourself. You know, maybe you're an adrenaline junkie and you're not satisfied until you put your life at risk. You know, or maybe you're a binge eater or you starve yourself. Who knows? You know, maybe you're working out to an unhealthy level. Maybe you've dyed your hair so much that it looks like wire. You know, self-harm comes in a lot of different forms. So it's basically intentionally doing something to your inside or your outside that's not healthy for you. And last but certainly not least is that having that lack of purpose in life. So if you really don't have a sense of yourself and what you want to do with life, that's a really good sign that you don't have adequate self-esteem. So before we move on, are there any questions? And again, feel free to use the chat box. That's what it's there for, because again, I want you guys to be more interactive. No questions? All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on then. So on to the good stuff. You know, there is good news. Well, no, not good news yet. There is good news, but that's not right now. So on to the good stuff. In both my professional and personal experiences, I've come to learn that there are 3 major mistakes that people make when they try to do something about their self-esteem. And I wanted to share my insights with you so that maybe when you decide to start your self-love journey, you won't make the same mistakes. So let's take a look. Mistake number 1. Mistake number 1 is you have not let go of your past. As the brilliant Brene Brown says, no one rides for free. It's not about if we go through hard things, but how we go through hard things. And it's not about if we are crazy, but how we are crazy. And if you haven't heard of Brene Brown, I definitely recommend looking her up. She is brilliant, and I might be a little obsessed with what she teaches because it's so, so good. So in life, we all go through difficult and bad stuff. You know, like she says, no one writes for free. We all face adversity, whether it's grief and loss, trauma, you know, physical injuries or chronic pain, divorce, betrayal, loss of jobs, abuse. You know, it could be literally anything that you consider to be, you know, difficult things. So the problem with not letting go of your past is if you don't make peace with your past, it hinders your future. And most times your past causes your low self-esteem. So how would you expect to love yourself and accept who you are if you can't accept the events that shaped you? You know, it's like that ball and chain visual where you're trying to climb a mountain with a ball and chain linked to your foot. You know, it doesn't work very well. So referencing back to what we just talked about with environments, experience, personality, and perceptions, your past unresolved struggles create distorted core beliefs about yourself. You carry these beliefs with you throughout life, and you kind of operate on them, you know, on an unconscious level. So that's the problem with not letting go of your past. You know, you can't just drag it with you and expect to love yourself if you haven't let go and learned to accept it. So I'm hoping that makes sense. And I believe, Katarina, you told me, I believe that's you, that the chat isn't working. So don't worry about that. I'm glad that you're still with me. I appreciate it. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and email me because I got your emails and I do appreciate you letting me know. So we're going to go ahead and continue. So if you, like I said, if you have any questions, go ahead and email me, okay? So moving on, mistake number 2. Faking it until you make it. So first, let me preface this by saying that I love positive affirmations. I think they can do wonders for, you know, changing mental habits and putting you in a positive mind state. However, the problem lies when you tell yourself something that you don't believe. So I'm sure, you know, at some point you've heard, you know, when you're practicing affirmations, if you don't believe it initially, you know, fake it until you make it, you know, so say it over and over again until you start believing it. And, you know, for some people this works and that's great. You know, they develop their own mantras and repeat them in the mirror daily until they believe it. That's awesome, you know, but what about the rest of us? I know for me personally, that does not work very well. My inner critic kicks in and immediately tells me that the mantras aren't true. So first you need to evict that inner critic so she can't disrupt your self-love journey. So to do this, you will need to correct your core beliefs, you know, which are more than likely distorted, as well as making peace with your past. If you try to tell yourself that you are beautiful or worthy every day when you truly don't believe the exact opposite, that's where it becomes problematic. So faking it until you make it is like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. It might help short term, but if you need surgery, a Band-Aid's not going to do any long-term good. So if you know, you truly believe that you're unworthy, those positive affirmations are a Band-Aid when really you need surgery to fix whatever is going on inside. Now, mistake number 3. Mistake number 3 is having a lack of vision for what you want in life. You know, most of you might have a general idea of what you want for yourself. You might know that you want to feel better, you might want to do better, look better, whatever it is, you know, but what does better look like? What does that mean? In what areas of your life do you want to you want to feel better in? Most of us don't have an answer for that. And that's where it becomes problematic. If you don't have a crystal clear idea of where you want to be, what you want to feel, what you want to look like, there aren't enough goals in the world that are going to help you get there. So that's where that becomes problematic. So those are the three biggest mistakes. So not letting go of your past, faking it until you make it, and having a lack of vision for what you want. And I love this last mistake because it's the new year, and everybody's, well, maybe not everybody, but most people are making their New Year's resolutions and all of that good stuff. So this is a good time for you to make those New Year's resolutions and make it about self-love, because it's going to be the most worthwhile journey that you've ever gone on. It's going to be very difficult, but it's going to be worthwhile, because I say this all the time to my clients, that anything worth doing is definitely not easy. It's very, very difficult, but it's less difficult than staying stuck somewhere where you're not meant to be. That's a quote somewhere, but I can't remember for the life of me who said it. So there is good news. And the good news is that there are several ways that you can work on avoiding these three mistakes. So I've listed few of, the very many, and you can get creative with these, on your own time and stuff like that. So here are just the basic 4 that I've come up with for you today. So the first is practice authenticity. So being authentic is the opposite of fake. Faking anything has not worked for many people or clients that I know of. Self-acceptance means being your authentic self. So living in your truth and being okay with that truth is what helps you to love who you are. Practicing authenticity in your daily routine is a better beginning to self-love. So it's time to take off the mask and show who you really are. So second recommendation is making peace with your past. Our past is part of our story, and you can't get rid of it. You can only run from it for so long before you get tired. We can't run forever. So my recommendation to you would be get a therapist or a counselor, a life coach, talk to a trusted friend or a mentor, whoever you need to talk to. You're not going to be able to move forward with self-love until you're able to do this. And again, this is more of a progress type recommendation, because it doesn't happen overnight. Definitely not. So it's going to take you some time. But that is one of the best ways to avoid those 3 mistakes that we talked about. Number 3, get a clear vision with where you want to be. So you have to get really real. So that also means that you will need to make an honest evaluation about yourself and where you're at right now. And from there, make small, realistic goals that you know that you can achieve. And I always tell my clients about, I use a Grand Canyon analogy. And that Grand Canyon analogy is, your end goal is on the other side of the Grand Canyon. You're not going to try and jump from where you are right now to the other side of the Grand Canyon. Likely you're going to fall off a cliff and it's not going to end very well. But what you need to do is you need to make those small achievable goals, hike down into the bottom of the canyon and hike back up. That's how you get to the other side. And that's how you achieve your end goal, baby steps. It's all about baby steps. So finally, my 4th recommendation is probably one of the hardest, and it's practicing mindfulness every single day. And mindfulness essentially is just being present in everyday life. And being present in everyday life will help you to understand how you are feeling and get more in tune with your mind and your body. So this makes self-acceptance and authenticity a little bit more realistic. But you cannot be authentic and self-accepting if you're constantly avoiding yourself and disconnecting. So yes, very, very difficult, but probably one of the most worthwhile recommendations I can give you right now. So what I want you to do, and just think about this kind of on your own, is have you tried any of these recommendations and have they worked for you? So those are my 4 recommendations, and they're very, very simple, but very, very challenging. So I wanted to give you a few suggestions just to get started. And there's so many different resources out there that will help you on this incredible journey. And again, I might love Brene Brown just a little bit too much, but here are some book recommendations. I'm going to give you just a few minutes to write some of these down if you want. So take a few minutes and again, take your time. And I will move on in just a moment. Good day. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. If you do need more time, just let me know and I can send you an email with these recommendations. I am more than happy to do that. Again, I'm all for self-growth and all of that good stuff. So I can also send out a follow-up email. My other suggestions to you to get started are to get to know yourself a little bit. And you can do that through taking a Myers-Briggs short version free personality test. I love this test. And I do know that it is consistent because I've taken it probably 4 or 5 times over the span of 10 years, and I've always gotten the same thing. So the Myers-Briggs version of this personality test, it breaks it down into 4 different, well, I think they changed it into 5 different areas of your personality. And so that might help you get a better idea of how you experience your internal and external happenings. My second recommendation for you is I have included here a YouTube video, and it's a very simple guided meditation. It's only 9 minutes, and it is a great starting point if you want to start meditating and becoming more in tune with your body. After you start your meditation practice, it's going to be so much easier to live mindfully every single day. So I found a quote somewhere. I'm huge on quotes. If you don't have time to meditate for an hour, that's when you need it the most. I think that's about what it said. And so being able to make time for a 10-minute meditation is, I think, pretty doable for most people, even the busiest ones. I do it every day, and right now I work 3 jobs, and I think it helps keep me centered and less stressed. So that's why I do meditation, and that's why I suggest it to literally everybody I know. And lastly, again, with the getting to know yourself, I have included one of my Pinterest boards actually, and it's a bunch of different journal prompts. So get to know yourself a little bit by journaling. And it doesn't have to be free writing, because I'm probably one of the best people to tell you that free writing is difficult. I've got the ADHD, and so I can't just sit down and start writing. It just doesn't happen. So what I ended up doing is I found a bunch of quotes online, and I would just interpret those quotes and apply it to my life to see, what kind of work I could do on myself. And I ended up compiling a bunch of stuff that I found on Pinterest. And so if that makes it easier for you, check that out. You can Google it on your own, whatever works best for you. So again, I will give you just a minute to jot those down. And then if you can click the links, great. I doubt you'll be able to. I'm not as technology savvy as I would like to be. And so I can also send a follow-up email with this stuff if for some reason you don't get these links. So I'm going to take a drink of water here. And just for your information, Katerina, I'm going to look into the chat issue that you had told me about, because I was unaware of that, and I don't like that at all. I would like for you to be able to chat with me a little bit. So thank you again for bringing that to my attention. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move on. I want to take this time to thank you. I'm so grateful that you've chosen to join me today. And what I want you to do is compile a list of questions that you might have, and I will take all the time in the world to get back to you and answer any questions that you have. Again, I know the chat thing is just being weird. I do apologize for that. I was totally unaware. So yes, please compile a list of all the questions you have for me, and I will be more than happy to answer anything that you have for me. And if you liked anything that you heard today, please check me out on my website, mysimpleserenity.com, which I think that you went there to enroll in the webinar today. And I have a bunch of blog stuff. I also offer counseling if you are in the South Florida area. So yes, if you like my stuff, go ahead and check me out. And finally, I just wanted to let you know that if you did like what you saw today, I do offer an 8-week course that is centrally focused on the 3 biggest mistakes that we talked about today. And this is what you'll get. So if you commit to your own self-love journey today, you'll get lifetime access to 8 modules that, again, are focused on those 3 biggest mistakes. And we'll go in depth about what it's going to take to begin the self-love and acceptance journey. Along with that, you'll get 10 follow-up emails with me for consistent support and guidance, because what you're doing, it's very powerful, and sometimes you need that support. And since I am a therapist, and I've done this a lot, you will be able to answer questions or ask questions and get a little bit of guidance from me. So that is also included in that. So again, I understand that mental health stuff is super expensive in this day and age, especially if you find a therapist that doesn't take insurance. And so that was kind of my main reason for, creating my business, because I want you to have access to mental health resources without paying an arm and a leg for it. So I've pretty much made a decision that I'm going to offer this entire 8-week course for, I'll come back to that, for $30 a course. So I normally charge my clients $130 per session. And so for an 8-week course, that's $1,100, and that's really expensive just for you to feel good about yourself. So I'm offering this to you for $30 a course. It's lifetime access, and that totals to $240. Now, obviously, $240 can be a lot of money for some people. So I also offer 8 small payments of $35 to make it a little bit easier on you. Again, you have that lifetime access. You can come and go as you please, take time on each of the modules. And before I forget, this is what we will cover in the course. So we'll start out with some basic feelings identification. We'll get into more detail about the self-esteem basics. We are going to dissect your negative core beliefs and challenge your negative core beliefs, as well as address your fears. We're going to go into the inner workings of self-esteem, what it takes to begin that journey of self-acceptance and self-love. We'll talk in depth about self-respect and boundaries and how you create self-confidence. And then we're going to turn all of that into a daily practice of self-love. So I'm really excited about the course because it is so much information. And every week you get your own handouts to do on your own. And it's kind of like, it's not therapy, don't get me wrong, but it's just like therapy. But it's all stuff that you can do on your own time. So you don't need to spend, hundreds of dollars on a therapist. You can take my course and get it for, I think it's 77% off and feel good that way. So if this is something that you think is going to be a good fit for you, by all means do it. And for today only, I'm offering a special. So if you join today, you'll get a special offer for a membership into my private Facebook group. It's called the Next Level Love Facebook group, and it's for community support and additional support from me. And normally I do charge $75 to get into the group, but today I will offer it for $30. So that's 65% off. So all you have to do is jot down that promo code. It's FB, like Facebook, 002. So that's what you'll get today if you want to join. So you get the 8 courses, the 10 follow-up emails, and then for extra $30, you get membership into the Facebook group. And my main reasoning for creating the Facebook group is for you to be able to, chat with other people doing the course and, get feedback from their learnings and present, stuff that you've learned and your achievements and your successes, all of that good stuff. So that was my main reason. So I think that would be brilliant for you to do as well. So again, if you think this is something that's going to be of value to you, please, by all means, join. And you can do so by enrolling today. And that here is the link on my website. So I will let you jot that down real quick. And again, I really hope that you enjoyed what you heard today. And again, if you have any questions or anything like that, please do not hesitate to let me know. So email me. And then I will also, again, send out that follow-up email with all of the recommendations and links and stuff like that. So again, please send me your list of questions. I'm more than happy to answer them for you. And I really hope that you join the course. I think it's going to be probably one of the best decisions of your life. I know that I've done my own work, so anything that I'm giving you for the next level love course is stuff that I've done on my own. So I know it works and I feel great today about it, so everything that I give you is only to help you. And so I'm really excited. I hope you join and I look forward to speaking with you in the future. Have a good night.